All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the chapters slowly from AppInventor2, Create Your Own Android Apps by Wolber, Abelson, Spertus, and Looney. And so far I've gone over I've done some review or introductory kind of lectures, and I've gone over Chapter 1, which was Hello Per, and Chapter 2, which is PaintPot. So I'm going to jump into Chapter 3, which is MoleMash. And it's kind of a takeoff of the Whack-A-Mole program. Now, I have to warn you in advance that I've created this program before, and to my knowledge, it will not work on the emulator. Maybe we'll even see if we can get it to work on the phone. So I'm not going to make any promises, but we'll get there. All right, so as it says, what we'll build here is a MoleMash application. It's kind of hard to see. There's the mole. All right. So as mentioned, the mole will pop up at random locations in the screen, moving once per second. When we tap on the mole, it'll cause it to vibrate, and a hits counter right there will be incremented. If we tap the screen to try to hit the mole but we miss, the misses counter will be incremented. We'll have a reset button, which will reset the hits and misses both to 0. And what we're supposed to cover in this particular example is we'll talk about the image sprite, and we'll talk more about the canvas. Now, the canvas has got really the drawing component in AppInventor2 has only got 3 components in it. And those are the canvas, the image sprite, and the ball. So we'll concentrate on 2 of those in this chapter, those being the canvas and the image sprite. But if you want to use an image sprite or a ball, you have to add a canvas first. Because as mentioned there, the canvas will act as the surface on which we'll place the image sprite. We'll also go through the clock components so we can set something to happen. In this case, move the mole around every second. A sound component to produce the vibration when the mole is tapped. A button to start the game. Procedures to implement repeated behavior. The generation of random numbers. And how to use a couple of the different math blocks. So I've already connected to AppInventor, and I'm going to start a new project. I already have a MoleMash on there. So I think I'm just going to call it MM2 for MoleMash 2. Okay? And we're supposed to download the picture of the mole from the AppInventor site. So I'm going to grab that. There's the picture of the mole. Right mouse click, save image as. I'm going to save it right to the desktop. It's mole.ping. So that's been done. So as it says, and I'm not going to go over this again because I already have. But these are the components that we're going to have in here. Canvas, image sprite, sound control, a couple labels, horizontal arrangement, a button, and a clock. So let's put these in right now. All right? What I like to do is make it a little easier. Well, I can just go back and forth. It's fine. So the first thing I want to do is add a canvas, and we're not going to rename it. So I go down to my drawing and animation, I go to canvas and just drag it onto the screen. We'll worry about resizing it, etc. later. That's not that big a thing. The image sprite, which is going to hold the mole. So as it says, from the drawing and animation, drag out a canvas, set its width to fill parent so it stretches across the entire screen, and its height to 300 pixels. So I guess we better do that. So there it is. The height will be in pixels, and it'll be 300. That's a common height, all right? And the width will be fill parent, so you can see how much it takes, all right? All right, next, we want to drag in an image sprite and place it somewhere on the canvas. Click rename, set its name to mole, and set its picture property to the mole.ping. So image sprite, again, we can put it anywhere. There it is. We want to change its picture property. We want to upload a file. Choose the file from our desktop. There's mole.ping. There it is. Click OK. And there's our mole. All right. And we also wanted to rename this to just mole, okay, for the image sprite. So we'll click rename, and again, just call this mole. Not mile. It's much easier when you're going through these examples to use the names that the author has used. Okay. All right, so we've got that. Drag in a button and place it beneath the canvas. Name it reset button and set its text to reset. All right. Also drag in a clock component. This will go in the non-visible, so it'll appear down here, as will our sound component. All right, that we're going to do in the next chapter, or in the next step. All right, so we want to drag in a clock, and we want to drag in a sound component. All right, I know that the sound is under the media. There it is down there. And the clock, I don't remember. Sensors. There it is. Okay, so there's our components. And again, what we have on our screen right now should be symbolic of what's here, and it pretty much looks the same. I guess they've got their components switched around. They put in the clock first. No big thing. You will now place label components used to display the score, especially the hits and misses. So we want to drag out a horizontal arrangement, put it beneath the button, and keep its default name. There it is. Then we want to drag two labels onto this and name them hits label we want the label to be named to be hits label and the text to be hits. So we want to put two labels out here. Let's just start there. Again, you want to make sure that it ends up being inside of your horizontal arrangement. And you can see that they both are. Good. All right. So rename the left label hits label and set its property to hits. Text property to hits. All right. Rename the right label hits count label and set its text property to 0. Hits count label. And set its text property again to 0. All right, so we've got that. Next, I know we're going to grab another horizontal arrangement here. We're going to put it right underneath the first one that we just put in. Okay, and that's going to hold for the thing for the misses. So we're doing a similar thing, but we're calling it misses label, misses, and we're going to set that to 0. So when we get done, we should have this. It's always good to go back and check not only the picture, but to check your component list here to make sure that they're set up correctly. All right, so we want to add misses label and misses count label. Again, you can see they're both inside of the horizontal component. And this one I think was Mrs. Label. And the text was for that was going to be Mrs. this one was going to be Mrs. Count label. And the text for that was just going to be 0. All right, I believe now when you take a quick look at that, all right, if we take a quick look at what's there on our screen right now, that does look very much like what you see right here. So we're in good shape right now. Let me check my time. All right, we're okay. Adding behaviors to the components. After creating the preceding components, let's move to the blocks editor so we can add the behavior. Specifically, we want the mole to move to a random location on the canvas every second. Again, the goal of the game is to tap the mole wherever it appears, and when we do, our hits counter will be incremented by 1. And when we miss, the misses counter will be incremented by 1. We'll also have the reset button for which we will reset the number of hits and the number of misses to 0. Notice in the programs we've created so far, you built procedures such as vibrate. Wouldn't it be nice if AppInventor had a procedure that moved an image sprite to a random location on the screen? And it's a good news, bad news situation. The bad news, it doesn't have one of those components, but the good news is you can create your own to do this. Now, they go into a long diatribe here over how the move mole procedure works. The bottom line is this: if you look at your screen or your canvas, excuse me, if you look at your canvas as being a grid, whereas you go across the screen from left to right, that's your horizontal component of the grid, and as you go up and down, that's your vertical component of the grid, and the X is the horizontal and the Y is vertical. The upper left-hand corner is 0.00. What you want is for the mole to move around on the screen and to move around in such a way that it's not determinate. In other words, the person playing the game shouldn't be able to figure out where the mole is going to move next. So, as it says there, to determine the maximum available X and Y values so that the mole can move on the screen as much as it possibly can, we need to make use of the width and the height properties of the mole in the canvas. You remember when we created the canvas, the height is 300 pixels and the width is fill parent. So in other words, take up as much of the screen as you can. The mole is 36 pixels wide and the canvas is 200 pixels wide. So in other words, when we talk about that, the farthest that we can go from 0 to 164. And as they mentioned there, the 164 is basically, you figure that out from 200 minus 36, which is the width of the canvas minus the width of the mole. So the next figure on the next page shows the procedure you can create, all right, with comments. To randomly place the mole, you want to select an X coordinate in the range of the width minus the mole width and a Y coordinate in the range of the height minus the mole height. You can generate a random number through there, which you can use to fill all that up. All right, so this is what we want to do. We're going to create our own procedure by clicking the procedure drawer, dragging out a procedure with do in it, not result, because do means you're not returning anything, and if you put in a result, you are returning something. We're going to call this move mole, and we're going to set it up just like what you see here. So again, I'm going to go into the blocks editor. I'm going to go to procedure, find one that says do, not result, drag it out there. First thing we want to do is click on here and change the result, or the name rather, to move mole. All right, so we've got that done. So now we want to call the mole and we want to do a move to. Where's our mole? There it is. So we want to do this. We want to call a mole and we want to do a move to. All right, because we want this program to be totally and truly random, we're going to pull out two random integers here. And you'll notice that when we pull them out, because I'm going to grab both of them right away. If I go to math and I grab random integer from 1 to 100, And remember, I can right mouse click that and choose duplicate. There we have them. Now that's the good news. The bad news is we don't want those numbers here to be 100. So I can go and drag this away, and I can drag this away. In fact, it might have been faster. We'll just leave it like this. We'll do it like this. All right, so now we've got 1 to nothing. And what we want is to be the canvas width minus the mole width. We want a minus on both of these. So in other words, if I go back to my math, is there one thing in here with a minus? There it is. So we want it here, and I'll right mouse click and choose duplicate, and we'll put it in here. All right, so we're making good progress here. Let's finish this one up, and then I'll end this part of the lecture. So what we want to do is canvas 1.width minus mole width, and then the height minus the height. So I want to grab the width. And I want to subtract from that the mole width. And I'm wondering if I'm able to right mouse click and duplicate and put that here. If I do that, can I get the height? I don't know why I couldn't. And I'll do the same thing here. All right, so how does this look as compared to the way it should look? All right, move mole do, call mole move to XY. Move mole do, call mole move to XY. Random integer 1, 1. Random integer, gotta be 0. Okay, that's not a problem. We'll just change that. Canvas 1 width, mole width. Canvas 1 width, mole width. Canvas 1 height, mole height. Canvas 1 height, mole height. So these two have to change. I'm just gonna do it manually like this. All right, so hopefully that's everything we were supposed to have. So I went in here, did all this stuff, changed the number, boom, 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 did all of that. All right. So we want to go and drag out a screen1.initialize, and we are going to stop this one. So there's our screen 1. We want to find the initialize, which is right near the top, I believe. There it is. So when we initialize, we want to call move mole. Okay? Now, let's just go back. In fact, let's see, I must be pretty close here. Yeah, I'm at 18 minutes. So I'm going to stop now, and then we'll run it and see where we are so far after or at the beginning of the next section of the tape.